And good day, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world. And welcome to this special little live stream thought I would do, having watched the film Spitfire over Berlin. As usual, I'm going to start us off with a bit of a tune. Okay, that was the Battle of Britain March of the Royal Air Force. Listen, I'm not a big supporter of Britain during World War II in 1939. I'm an even less big supporter of Britain joining World War One in 1940. But I watched a movie, a film the other day called Spitfire over Berlin. And to say it really, really pissed me off would be a vast understatement. But in order to explain why it really, really pissed me off, I've got to play you guys a couple more videos. And the first one I'm going to play you is Robert Stanford Tuck, and it's a documentary. Robert Stanford Tuck, it's a very short documentary, by the way. He was born in 1916 and he died in 1987, aged 70. And during the Battle of Britain, he destroyed at least 29 German aircraft. He was also a father and a husband with at least a couple of kids. Okay. So, having seen that, let us now play this.
And here are some of the hurricanes that had the pleasure of welcoming the Italian air races to Britain. The squadron leader who led the action had already had considerable practice in disposing of enemy machines. You'll notice the swastikas on his plane, 21 of them so far. Our visitors kindly brought many souvenirs with them, tin hats, cheeses, and bottles of Chianti. Possibly they anticipated a long stay here. Why the tin hats? Well, helmets are handy if you're out after dark on the ground. Anyway, these are the men who dealt with the Italian bombers and fighters. In the words of one of them, it was the best party he'd ever attended.
The people of Burma, who subscribed so generously for the machines of this fighter squadron, must be delighted to know how well it has done in combat against the enemy. Squadron leader Stanford Tuck, for instance, has received the DSO and the DFC and BAR, a pretty hard record. Back from battle. The enemy have been driven off, and as usual, several of them destroyed by these hurricanes of the Burma squadron. Count the swastikas on that plane. Squadron leader Tuck has some 26 Huns to his credit.
During a two-day tour of RAF stations, the King held more than one investiture. Group Captain Primrose received the CBE. And Squadron Leader Tuck, the DSO, and the bar to his DFC. He's brought down nearly 30 Huns.
Did you realize at the time how significant a part in the war you were playing?
Oh yes, I think so. The pilots that had become leaders by this time, that's to say flight commanders and squadron commanders and wing leaders, like myself and many of the others, by this time we were fully trained, and we'd been through the training programs in peacetime year after year, and I think at this stage we did know that it was pretty well make or break when we were seeing these large enemy formations every time we flew, very nearly. We were well aware that this was the big show.
Did you respect the German pilots?
Oh, indeed, yes. I had the utmost respect for them, always. So much so that one would never underestimate one. Never underestimate one. Many great mistakes have been made like that, and some poor chaps have cost them their lives. But, oh no, they were good.
Did you hate them?
No, I never hated them. I realized that I got to shoot as many of them down as I possibly could, my wing, and all of us had. But there was never a personal hate, because this air combat was a very impersonal thing.
Did you know some of the pilots by name?
Oh yes, of course. I mean, we knew who were their big leaders and things like that. Oh, indeed.
Have you ever met any of them since?
Oh, many of them. One, General Galland in particular, General Lédioc Galland, he had the Messerschmitt wing at Saint-Omer in France when I had the Biggin Hill wing of Spitfires, and we used to mix it quite frequently, although, of course, we weren't aware that it was each other. But we used to mix it quite often over France and the Channel. And then, of course, after the war, I met him, and he was sitting here in this chair where you are a few weeks ago.
I was going to ask you, did you fear death?
Well, I think yes. I think one always feared death, but not in the actual thing of death. I know I was always very, very worried when I thought about it, of being shot down and trapped in the cockpit of flamer and that sort of thing where you couldn't get out. But the actual thing of dying, I don't think one was worried about. But how one died, I think was, I expect a lot of people thought about it. I did anyway.
Against a delightful rural setting is a typical family group, with the father showing his two sons how to shoot straight on a miniature range in the garden. And this father knows a great deal about shooting, but at targets more elusive than electric light bulbs. To prove our point, let's introduce Wing Commander Stanford Tuck, DSO, DFC, and 2 bars, Battle of Britain pilot, who alone shot down 29 aircraft during the last war. a pilot bails out, and a parachute mushrooms to give us a handy introduction to the story, for after the appalling dangers of war, a man is entitled to peace and quiet. And Wing Commander Tuck has achieved just that through the unlikely medium of mushrooms. This is a large-scale commercial venture carried out on a 4.5-acre farm at Eastry in Kent. The enclosed mushroom sheds themselves cover a whole acre. Onto a tray of specially prepared compost, which has been pasteurized for 48 hours at a temperature of 140 degrees Fahrenheit, goes the mushroom spawn. Each of the 26 crops a year requires great care. For instance, the disinfecting of sheds and trays after every crop. It is fitting that the hand with the firm but gentle touch which so skillfully piloted wartime fighter aircraft should now be engaged in an equally skillful but far more peaceable task. It's a pity Hitler didn't think of it when he was still a corporal.
Okay, that was Robert Stanford Tuck, who was one of the greatest Battle of Britain aces, with 29 confirmed kills. Well up there with people like Douglas Bader and the South African Sailor Malam. But you will notice he was a family man with a pretty cute wife and a couple of kids. Douglas Bader, same thing. As far as I know, people like Adolf Galland and etc. on the German side, exactly the same. And they didn't really hate each other. They were just warriors fighting each other. So anyway, just this morning, in Australian terms, it's now 1:44 p.m. On let me think, Wednesday in Australia. But like early this morning, I decided to watch this movie. And I'm going to play this trailer now because this film really fucked me off entirely. But anyway, I'll play this trailer now, which hopefully I can play and not get into trouble for. because it is, after all, the trailer for the film. Let's watch it.
I have another job for you. Clock's ticking.
The 8th Air Force are planning a large-scale attack in West Berlin. They believe the Germans have a gap in their air defences, and if they strike tomorrow, can seriously undermine German supply lines. But they're wrong. The Yanks are flying into a trap. But without concrete evidence, the Yanks are going ahead with the mission tomorrow as planned. Fly in, take the photos, and get the hell out.
Just the same. Cut the cap.
Parachute, probably not the one if you do time that thing, maybe not the usual. A little bit different. It's a little bit heavy, a little bit bulky. Parachute's actually on your back, so behind you.
Not like the old days when you used to sit on it.
No, so we do have some seat parachutes, but this is a little bit just seems to work better with the aircraft. There's 3 points to the harness, which I will do up for you. So you've got one between each leg, and then you've got a chest strap as well.
Okay.
We'll turn those up once they're on. Same goes for the harness. If anything's too tight or uncomfortable, bear in mind you're going to be in the airplane for like probably an hour, to be honest, at least. So just shout. Nothing needs to be that tight.
Yeah, so okay, that was Spitfire over Berlin. Let me tell you for a start, guys, that yeah, you could fly a Spitfire over Berlin with long-range tanks, and they were unarmed, photo reconnaissance Spitfires, and they could do that. But in this idiot movie, the guy is supposed to have already flown one operation that morning, and then he's told he has to fly another one the next day by one bloke, which is utterly ridiculous. Because there's like about 6 people in the whole film, 5 or 6 people actually. And I watched Lancaster Skies, which was an even more crappy film in many respects, but this one was particularly egregious. Because, like, you don't, as a photo reconnaissance pilot in the RAF in World War II, fly a mission, come back, and then be told you got to go do another one the same day. I doubt that ever happened. For one thing, like if your fighter flies through loads of flak, it's almost going to certainly take a certain amount of minor damage that needs to be repaired first. Also, early in this movie, the guy does loads of aerobatics and low-level shit and all the rest of it, which no sane RAF pilot would ever have done had he been flying through a load of flak, because, you know, his wing might suddenly collapse or something else that would kill him stone dead. And most people don't want to be stone dead, strange to say. But anyway, so this dude, he goes and does this movie, and one of the recurring themes for it is that he has, as many, many, many pilots had in World War II, a lucky picture of some pin-up girl, all right, who he talks to all the time through the movie. And many pilots did have stuff like that. Some of them, like there were bomber and fighter guys who used to always carry one of their girlfriend's silk stockings or whatever it might be. Everyone had their juju against getting killed, you know, because it was so random that, you know, carrying something as a lucky charm seemed a good idea. Listen, all my mates and myself, I still have it. When we did our first tour in Northern Ireland in the 1980s, all of us got 5.56 M16 Armalite bullets, because if you have your we put our names on them, because if you have the bullet with your name on them, it's not going to kill you. That used to be the World War I deal. And every single one of the guys in my particular section did that. You know, it kind of worked because none of us got shot. So there you go. But then, you know, the IRA were, and he's so good, and there weren't that many of them. And by the time Tony Blair came in and surrendered to them, the Brits had almost won. But, you know, you're not allowed to say that anymore, like so many other things. But anyway, you watch this movie, and it's not a bad movie. It gets some things right. Like, it gets right that prior to Dunkirk, the RAF had black and white bombs to their aircraft. It gets other things totally wrong. Like, you'll see ME 109 fighters with struts going up to their tails in 1945, which was bullshit. That was only 1940, but you know, it gets some things right. It gets other things wrong. And you watch the whole film, and you know, he eventually makes it back. I don't want to spoil the film, but actually, I don't give a shit, because no one should pay to watch this movie. But he eventually manages to get back, and like, you know, the rescue crew come and get him, and blah blah blah, and like all natural human beings, because he loses the pin-up picture of this girl during his flight, and so all ordinary, average, well-thinking human beings will think, okay, he's going to meet a girl who either looks like that or will replace that. But what this movie does, and bear in mind we're just in June, if you're in Australia anyway, so it's Gay Pride Month, because you really should be gay for him being involved in butt sex. You know, there's nothing that should make you more proud than being involved in either you or somebody else, you fucking someone in the ass, or somebody else fucking you in the ass. If I did that sort of stuff, I would be not proud of it at all, but apparently one should be, according to Gay Pride Month, which makes me vomit, frankly. But anyway, in this movie, the very last scene is he's taking off on another mission, and someone in the control tower says to him, "How's the new co-pilot?" And do you know who the new co-pilot is? It's another gay RAF pilot. So the guy is a queer, a gay, a homosexual. Because, the RAF in World War II were not known at all for being guys who would drink 1 million gallons of beer and chase any woman anywhere. Of course they weren't. No, they were gay. And it's just insane bollocks. Because, for a couple of reasons. It's insane bollocks because any bloke who had been like that would have been rejected by everybody else who knew him in those days. Quite rightly, by the way. We should still do it. Who's this wank? Hang on, I'm just going to ban. You're banned, all right? The other thing is that, British RAF fighter pilots and bomber pilots and coastal command pilots and all the rest of the British pilots were kind of well known for being chaps who would go the extra mile to chase any woman they could possibly chase and drink as much beer as they could. They weren't gay. And it is insulting to say they were. I'm sorry, it's just insulting to say they were. It's not acceptable. It's insulting. So if you see this movie, which is called Spitfire over Berlin, please, please, please do not give it money, because it's been produced, and it's been released for Gay Pride Month. Avoid it. It's an insult to our fathers and our grandfathers and our great-grandfathers. Do not watch it. I'm sorry, just don't. And like I said, Lancaster Skies was a bloody silly film. This was a bit better in many respects, but then in the end they had to make the guy gay. So fuck that shit. I ain't giving you no money. Avoid it all. And yes, I did just block someone on the chat because he just turned around and said all British guys were gay. Sorry. Can't hear him, but I can block him. If I could hear him, I'd sooner do that. Then I could hear him and him and him until he begged for mercy and said, no, they're not. But I can't do that. It's YouTube. So there you go. Anyway, do not pay any money for this film. Personally, I wouldn't even watch it. It's just bollocks. So, there you go. That's my review of Spitfire over Berlin. A right load of left-wing, feminist, and gay crap. And on that note, I shall play us out with a tune. Oh, by the way, guys, before I do, in 2 days, I'm going to be doing a video with a couple of other guys from my channel looking at the performance of the British and Canadians in Normandy in 1944, 1945, when the British and Canadians faced more than 3/4 of the German panzer divisions. But yeah, that'll be on in a day or two. So there you go. Okay, my channel will fight against the propaganda against Anglo-Celtic straight white men until the time that they kill me. That's what my channel will do. Anglo-Celtic straight white men are the best, bravest, most loyal, and best men in the entire world. I don't give a fuck about gays, feminists, LGBTQs, and all the rest of the scum in the world. But that's just me. Oh, well.